The move from Asana to ClickUp can sound as simple as just clicking import and export, right? Just migrate your stuff over. They talk to each other really well. Just grab your stuff and put it in ClickUp. It'll be fine. And, for the most part, that's true. You can migrate your stuff over. You have all your tasks there. Super handy dandy, super great. Except for the fact that Asana and ClickUp have slightly different functions. So if you just copy all of your Asana stuff, all the structure, everything, and throw it into ClickUp, cool, you've got basically Asana in a ClickUp shell, but you're not able to take advantage of ClickUp's really cool organization structure because you've just plopped a structure from another tool smack dab into it. So what am I suggesting here? I'm not saying by any means do not use the import and export for Asana, but instead, when you do that, take a critical eye at some of the structure from Asana and filter it through this process I'm going to talk about in this video before you say, aha, I'm done, my ClickUp is set up. Here's the thing, the areas in Asana that you know and love, things like status and sections and views, they work differently in ClickUp. And if you just copy and paste, you're not going to take advantage of all those different things, all those cool features that you switched to ClickUp in order to use. So in this video, I'm going to break down how those three key areas translate from Asana to ClickUp. Views, statuses, sections, how do we take those from Asana to ClickUp? Hint, I wouldn't be making a video if it was as simple as copy and pasting. So there is a little nuance in how these three areas in Asana come over to ClickUp. So a little bit about me, who's the overexcited person talking about technology on your screen. My name is Layla. I run Process Driven. I help small teams get their business instruction manual centralized in ClickUp, which means, yeah, a lot of the time we're moving from other tools like Asana. But besides just the official businessy stuff, so I know what I'm doing, I've also personally done the transition from Asana to ClickUp. When I started my business, I was using Asana. It was the tool that everyone was talking about. I didn't really get it, but I got on board. And I was immediately frustrated by the lack of custom fields, like those columns that you have to pay for in Asana to get those extra kind of ways to organize your data. I was pretty particular. I couldn't make the shapes that I wanted to in Asana. I tried a bunch of tools until I stumbled upon ClickUp. Full disclosure, I started ClickUp and I absolutely hated it. I was like, this is cool, but what am I supposed to do with this? This is complicated. I don't know how it all works together. And I probably used a partially set up ClickUp for the better part of a year. After about a year of using ClickUp but not really using it, I was like, all right, it's time to get my stuff together. And I started actually setting up my ClickUp in the proper way. And at that point, I just fell in love with the tool. Fast forward to 2020 here. And just this year, I've really decided that I'm going to be focusing my services on people who use ClickUp exclusively. What's so exciting to me about this is just a few years back, I would have told you that ClickUp is kind of annoying and clunky. It looks cool, but I don't know how to use it. Fast forward a few years, and now I'm here saying, I'm betting my business basically on this software, believing it is best in class and just really competitive for the offers and the features and the price for small businesses. So background aside, let's dive into this tutorial. I'm going to flip over my screen. We're going to actually dive into Asana, translate to ClickUp, and troubleshoot the things that I know we're all going to want to do, but we don't want to do when it comes to switching from Asana to ClickUp. So here we are in Asana, and I want to just go through the basic lay of the land here in case we are not all on the same page when it comes to terminology. So first of all, we're in Asana. We've got a nice little sidebar menu with all of the stuff going on. Inside that, we have our teams, we have our projects, and then we have our sections of tasks, and we have our tasks. Tasks do not have to be in sections. They're just kind of nice little accordion folders to help us group things and make it all a little bit less overwhelming and less of a really, really long, never-ending list here. We also have different ways we can view the same tasks without changing anything. These views are literally just viewing the same tasks in different ways. When we go to board view, we get this very Trello-like experience where it's easy to change anything that we want to change to give ourselves a little bit more customization as we go, because these sections really are doing nothing other than creating containers for our tasks. We can get really creative with these. We can change things on a whim with one quick click. These actual categories only show up in the cards as the location the project is under here, and we can sort it between those here. So here we are. We've got our area, our board in Asana. We've got our sections, our tasks. We also have custom fields for each task, which is assignee and due date. Again, they're not really custom, they're more just fields. But when we open the detail pane for a specific task, we see all of that stuff there. And if we were on the paid Asana plan, we would also see any other custom fields, such as priority, that we might want to have. This detail pane looks very similar to what you'll see in ClickUp, which is, it's a similarity, the stuff that catches you off guard. So how exactly do we translate this structure for example, social media? How do we translate that to ClickUp? Well, I'll tell you how most people translate it, and then I'm going to tell you how you should translate it. So just to show you what we have here before we transition, we have hashtags as a section. We have ideas around coffee. We have ideas around pizza. And I should say we have one that we're not sure which category goes in because it's both coffee and pizza. We have a section for creating, meaning we have a post that is beyond the idea stage. We just need to create an image, which is the first step in our process. Then we have a creating section that we need text, which I just changed the type of it, but still, it needs to have maybe text, like a description added to the social media post or blog post. Scheduled this week means it's scheduled this week, and we put a date over there, which is nice, and scheduled next week. You get it. When a post is posted, and I will show our completed to show all tasks. Once it's posted, we like to sort our stuff to know how it went, whether it went well or not well. So we have those sections in here too. And that is what our Asana setup is. This is a basic social media example, but the truths hold for any kind of stuff you could be having in Asana. Bam, here we are in ClickUp, and man, doesn't this look a lot like Asana? Now, granted, we're in list mode here, and before I think we were in board, but still, we've got our hashtags, we've got our coffee, our pizza, our needs image, our needs text. Just like in Asana, we can sort our tasks into other areas. One thing that we'll notice that's kind of weird is we can't not have it in one of these areas. Why is that? Because when we're looking at this, and we just looked at Asana side by side, these things really look a lot like sections, right? These little labels, they look like we could just rename these willy-nilly and just say, yeah, we're just going to change the name to whatever we want it to be. But then you start noticing, wow, that's kind of hard to click it in. They made that a little bit difficult. It's almost like they don't want me to change that every 2 seconds. The reason we cannot take our tasks out of these headers, whatever we want to call them in the time period here, the reason we can't take anything out of them, and it's not super easy to rename them, is because these are not the same as sections in Asana. They look so much like it. I get the confusion, but these are actually statuses in ClickUp. So if I go in here, I go into the list, and I go to edit list statuses, you'll see all the statuses I have in here, which I've purposely made them look the same as what we have in Asana. And this is kind of method one of what I see Asana users do when they come over. They come in, they see all these headers, and they're just like, oh, okay, let's just make our section titles. Exactly, just like what I'm used to. And they create them there, and then they drag their things through them and mark them done when they're done. But here's where it gets weird. In ClickUp, because these aren't sections, these are the titles of your statuses. When I go to click on one of these, what are my choices to complete it? All of them. I can literally turn this hashtag into a post by accident because our statuses are what we're using as sections, which is not what we should be doing. It looks so similar. It looks so much like ClickUp, or it looks so much like the tool we're used to here, Asana, but the fact that we can't easily just click done because we've got all of these other things as status means that we're not quite using the tool in the intended way. Sure, we can do it. We can just click set to complete. We can skip through everything and go on our way, but it doesn't quite make sense. Ideas coffee is not a status. And ideas pizza certainly isn't a status if coffee isn't a status. It's just ideas. Idea is our status, and then we've got all this other stuff muddled around. So if we really wanted to sort things this way, and I'm not suggesting maybe that's the best choice, but if we'd want to do that, one of the easiest ways an Asana user can recreate sections in ClickUp without messing with statuses is as follows. First, go over here, click add a column, and go to dropdown. Optionally, go to labels. What's the difference? I'll explain in a moment. Drop down first. Let's go to sections, and we're going to create our sections. I'm not going to type all of them because I don't have that much patience, but let's just imagine we really needed all these sections in here, and we wanted to put them all in place. And we can even add the same colors as what we had in Asana if we used any colors, but I'm just going to make them the same colors as our statuses. What went well? Was that a burgundy-ish? What scheduled next week? We've got like a plum. Just put those in there, give or take. Now I only put a few in there in this sections custom field, but now what I can go through, and I'm just going to sort all of these into this category, even though that's not exactly what we're looking for. And let's actually add one more in here. Let's go to hashtags as its own category. Let's just make that a fun color, save. That way we can go through and let's just make all these hashtag ones go to that category. What we're doing now is we're creating a custom field for sections. Rather than just creating a grouping, we're actually adding this as an attribute. Now, I haven't added all of them, but let's go back over to here and let's imagine we group by sections. all of a sudden we're getting that section like board view, or we can even do it in list view. We can go over here, we can group by our sections and save this as our view if we really want those sections to be in place. Because here's what can happen. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change our statuses back to what I would call a more logical status. It doesn't have to be this simple, but it can be nice. Let's just make it super simple. If we really want to make everything feel as much like Asana as we want to, let's keep the statuses simple and not mess with them. So what I just did there, just to repeat, because I kind of flew through that one, is I'm changing our statuses to be to do and complete. No in between, no in progress, just to do and complete. And as we went over back in Asana land, here we are in Asana, you don't have a column for status in Asana. It's all grouped under this task name header, but you do indeed have statuses. And it is one of two things. It's either done or to do, or I guess incomplete or complete. So to recreate those in ClickUp, the best thing we can do, and you can even call these if you wanted to say incomplete, complete, you really want to go full on Asana on it, which I won't at this point. That's what you would do. And when I change the statuses to have no optionalities, just yes or no, incomplete, complete, we see that the symbol actually changes to a check, which looks a lot like Asana. So now we have created sections that actually are sections. They're just, it's a custom field we've created to give that effect. And we've simplified our statuses to actually make sense. When it's done, it's done. Awesome. When we finished all of the ones in one section, we know we've finished our thing. Just like in Asana here, when we finish these, we can either drag them to the next section if we wanted to, or we could mark them complete. That is our Asana workflow. If we wanted to perfectly replicate that in ClickUp, that is what I would do. I would say get a custom field together and do the same thing, whatever you would be doing, whether you're dragging between, whether you're marking it off as you go and retyping it in the next section, whatever that is, you can bring it over to ClickUp. I did mention that there was another type of custom field I was mentioning here, and this is labels. And I'm going to just show you this sections number option 2, because I think it's interesting to see the comparison here. This works more like a tag. I can't remember, posted went well. Basically, this is another type of custom field, and what it allows us to do is it allows us to have categories that are not mutually exclusive. So here I'm going to go in, do the same thing, create the colors, same kind of stuff. Oh, I got my colors backwards. Hold on, change that, change that. So I'm going to add this column in here, and now I can go in and I can actually tag multiple. So do you remember that one hashtag we had that fit into both categories? It was both pizza. I'm going to create a pizza one, and then it was also coffee. Well, when we're doing a drop down or when we're doing sections, you can only have one or the other. But where is it? This one. But when we're using something that's a label, something that allows you to have multiple choices in the same thing, we can click both pizza and coffee. It's the dream. If I were to group by section options 2, the label version, it'll actually group by the unique combinations. So here we have all the hashtags and posted went well, all the pizza and coffee, all the posted went well. If I wanted to add another custom field, I could go ahead and do that. And I would be able to sort everything by their, by the options there. So here I could make this custom field. Let's make this a pizza. And here we see how this all works. So I can change the custom fields here or the sections by doing it this way. And they are not mutually exclusive like they were when we were doing the other way of doing sections where it was a drop down. Let's go through an alternate scenario, because I think in this way, we're already seeing how we can simulate almost perfectly an Asana setup in ClickUp. But do we really want to? So you'll notice in this method, I'm going to show you the other one in a moment here. In this method, we have one list in ClickUp. And we might call that social media, because that's what we call the project in Asana. See right here, project, section, task, list, custom field, task. And I kind of have it set up the same exact way. So if I wanted to perfectly replicate it, this is probably how I would do it. And obviously I would go through and I would categorize all of them so it looks perfect, blah, blah, blah. I would probably hide priority because you have to pay for that in Asana. And I'd keep due date because that's what we were using over in Asana. So this is method 1 in Asana to ClickUp, right? Asana to ClickUp. What we've done is we've corrected ourselves from having a custom status for every single section and instead made section a custom field, either using the drop-down method or the label method. Either way, we've created a custom field for status. But I mentioned there were two ways that people come over from Asana, and I want to show you the other one now. Rather than messing with statuses, because they see this and it looks like status, instead I've seen people also do this way, where basically their Asana project becomes a ClickUp folder. Over here, we've got teams, we've got project, we've got sections, we've got lists. Over here, we've got, this is a test for me, folders, list, tasks. All right, so I've seen this method come over to ClickUp as well. And this one actually gets a little bit closer to being spot on in my book because they're not messing with that status feature. They keep the status as is. They recognize, this person recognizes that the check mark is pretty much what they want. Not complete, complete. They're used to that. They're comfortable with that. Cool. I would say this is probably the best newbie way to turn Asana into ClickUp. It's a direct translation and it more or less gets the job done. But are you taking advantage of ClickUp's features here in how you have it set up? Hint, no. So let's go through this and I'm going to demonstrate how we could turn this structure into something a little bit more ClickUp friendly. Since we're already looking at a structure more sophisticated than a one list method, there's some options for us out there as to how we can organize all of this stuff. So let's get to it. So what I'm proposing is that we're going to switch all of this Asana method 2, to this folder right here, social media, just this one. And we're going to distill all of these sections which are now lists, into just 2 lists. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to start at the bottom up and we're going to figure out where every single piece of this information should go in ClickUp, which again, this is our social media. And let's actually just rename this while we're here. ClickUp version. And this is going to be social media Asana. So let's start mapping it. The first one is posted, not good. Well, we obviously know this is going to go to posted. So for now, we're just going to drag these down into posted. So now once they're in here in posted, we need to figure out how to put that went well, didn't go well kind of attribute to it. So if we are pretty married to our statuses and we're pretty sure that by the time they get here, they will have been closed because they were posted, and we want to show all of our closed tasks here, what we might want to do is add a custom. So all of a sudden we've come up with a better way to sort those two all into one list, keeping them complete, showing all closed tasks so that way they're not hidden, showing them and saving our view accordingly, and then categorizing them based on how it went. And since we're going to keep our statuses the same here, I could choose to group these by this custom field in case I wanted to have that as my main header, or I could go over here to board view and do the same thing. A lot of the time I find it easier to work in board view when I'm looking for categorization. So here we go. We've got 2 complete tasks sorted into their categories. So we got rid of these 2. Right now I'm just going to go in and we are going to delete these lists because we don't need them. There's nothing on them. We know there's nothing on them because when we look next to them, there is no number. It is blank. And if we click on them, we'd also see they are blank. So let's look at the next one. Scheduled next week, scheduled this week. These ones are a little bit tricky, so I'm going to leave these for last and skip up a column just to, cheat a little bit. So creating and scheduled kind of all go hand in hand there, as well as ideas. All 6 of these sections in Asana, actually to me, have a bit of a status feeling to them. There's stages that our content goes through when we're getting ready to get it out the door. We go from ideas to creating to scheduled. Now, all this extra stuff that we've added with kind of a hyphen behind them, to me, probably isn't supposed to be a stage. It sounds to me more like a box that needs to be checked. So for now, I'm going to leave that out of the equation. And I'm going to go under here in production and I'm going to create a list status. I'm going to go custom because I'm feeling brave. And I'm going to go into here and I'm going to add ideas. And I don't have the not started status click app on, but if I did, that would be handy here. Creating or creation and scheduled. So I have idea, creating, scheduled, and complete when things are like real done and I don't need to do anything else with them. So let's click save here. Great. So now all of a sudden we have, let's go to board view so we can see our statuses nicely here. We've got idea, creating, scheduled, complete. This to me, the first part of all of these sections is covered in this area. So we could rename this last section to be posted and then effectively have both of these combined. The reason I'm breaking them out is just assuming we have a bit of clutter. And if you have subtasks, it can be nice to have just a traditional completed stage for those things that are a subtask. So if your subtask of social media might be something like review social media post, it's weird to have your final close status be scheduled because that doesn't really feel appropriate to subtasks. So for that reason, I usually keep a pretty generic last status. So anyway, we're going to go in here and we're going to take all of these. I'm using the multitask toolbar here. You can just choose and click, or you can click and hold shift and click and select a bunch of them. And I'm going to move them all into production here. And it's going to ask me, wait, this area that you're moving to has different statuses. What do you want these to go into? And I'm going to put them all in idea phase because they are indeed all idea and coffee ones. Before I move in pizza ideas, let's think about how we're going to sort them. Same thing as before, it's a different type of attribute. We could choose to make another status that's called idea pizza, but why? When we could instead maybe create a custom status with a label once again, and let's call it topic. If I can click save, let's call it topic. We'll do pizza, coffee. We could do pizza and coffee, or we could just leave these as separate labels. So I'm actually gonna just keep them as separate labels. So that way we can go in through each of them, give them the appropriate colors. Great. And all of these ones, I'm going to go in again through the multitask toolbar. I'm going to change the custom fields, the topic, move my face out of the way here. I'm going to change all these to, what were these? These are pizza. No, coffee. Okay, I'm going to change all these to coffee here. Click save, and the topic applies to all of them. I could also click them one by one, but I'm feeling lazy today. All right, there's coffee. This one is done. I'm going to delete this because we've effectively reduced the need for it. Ideas, pizza, same way. Click. You could collect them one by one. Or you could take that off, or you could just drag them one by one. Or you could do what I'm going to do, click on the top, hold shift, click again, and select all of them and drag them in. Again, where do I want to map these? They are going into the idea stage. Once I'm there, or before I got there, I was going to add in these. I'll add them one by one this time if I have the patience for it. Notice I'm choosing them, but I could also type this in and go through that way. Great, we have our topics in. This one, once again, is done. We are consolidating. Why does this matter? When I said, let me pause here. I said that this was perfectly fine. Why are we taking all this time to manipulate it? Because if you have a social media and it is 15 lists long, what happens when you have an email newsletter and a website and, your actual work? You end up with a really, really full left sidebar, which is overwhelming and just isn't really best for how ClickUp is laid out. You just run out of space really quickly, which is why we're switching to this method where we have less vertically on the left side, but we have more statuses going horizontally from left to right. And together they kind of it all comes out in the wash. So here we are, we've got creating needs image. So we've got another sophisticated part here. I'm going to select these, drag them into production. These ones are in progress, I would assume. We're going to paint them in the creating status. But before I go in and add more in here, once again, we are in a position where we need to add some fields. So this one is needs image. There are a few different ways I could go about doing this. I'm going to add a custom field and I'm going to call this images. This is one way. I could say, the images are done. In this case, they're not done, but you know what I mean. The images are done, and we could check off the box yes, no. We could also then create a checkbox for, what was the other one? Text. And we could use that as a visual guide to let us know where we're at in our process. The other way we could accomplish the same thing is by creating subtasks. We could create a subtask that says create images, and we'll know that it's not done. Create text. We could do it that way and just kind of mark these complete when we are done the specific area, which is why we have the complete area. We could also create a drop-down field called creation status. This only works if these are mutually exclusive, but needs images, needs text, maybe just needs to be scheduled, needs scheduling. We could create these statuses here. I'm going to drag this out so we have a little bit more space this way. All of these ways, from custom fields with a checkbox, to subtask, to custom field dropdown, to even going in here, we could create a checklist. I mean, there are all these different ways to accomplish the same thing, and none of which require us to, again, manipulate our statuses for things that aren't status really related. So here we do an alternative way. Which one's best? Depends on what you like to see. They all do the same thing. They all convey the same information. Depending on your team, how you work, whether you really operate in list view or whether you're more of a board person is going to help you decide which one's the right way to go for you. All right, done with that one. Let's move to needs text. Same thing. Going to drag these into production. Great. Same thing, move them into creating, but these have different statuses. They are in production, and I'm going to keep tracking them in all of the ways, just assuming that we're going to say this needs text, Where this drop down, let me just give a side note here, isn't going to be great is what if we do things in the opposite order? What if some get images before text and some get text before images? If that's the case, this status is not going to be very helpful for you. So we have those in there. We've added that extra field. We've sorted those ones. We are ready to, again, to get rid of this list. Okay, the final section here, scheduled this week, scheduled next week. This is a toughie because ClickUp isn't fantastic about custom date fields, but nonetheless, that feels like what we're looking for here, right? Do we really need to have a list just to tell us when it's going to come out and then manually have to remember to move it every week? I hope not. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these and we're going to move them in once again, just like we've been doing. And I did not map the dates in, but we're going to put them in here, scheduled. So how are we going to keep track of when something is scheduled? Well, I actually suggest for content work, having part of your process be using the due date as the publishing date. The reason is we can create a date right here that says publish date, but the functionality is really limited in ClickUp. While this is a date field, it doesn't let you do all of the things a due date would allow you to do. So let's just give this a due date of next Tuesday and next Monday. Great. So we have this here, and what I'm going to do now is create a view to allow me to see that this week, next week puzzle without having to really worry about it. Now I could go a few different ways. I'm going to first do calendar view, scheduled posts, and we're just going to call it scheduled. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just filter my view to only show things that are in the scheduled or complete status, because if it's in the past, I still want to see it. And so now I can see, looking here, what's coming up next week and what's coming up the week after just by looking at it on a calendar view. I could have different custom fields show up at this point if I wanted to. So for example, if I wanted to say what topic it was about, and of course, neither of these have topics, but whether it has an image or not, whether it has text or not. If I had that topic tag attached to these, it would show up as well. I could also choose to show up different things like where it's located. If I wanted to, you see it shows up as production. If there's any subtasks, which there aren't, and who it's assigned to, if it's assigned to anybody. All that stuff I could have show up on the card in calendar view. To me, that's a lot more effective than just seeing it in a section, because now I would have the historical record of everything in this calendar view. However, if you're not a huge calendar person, you can also do a board view, which is probably one of my favorite views if you haven't gathered that already. We can group by publishing date, and it's going to give us kind of that running calendar of all of the things based on that publishing date field. Now, so far, I've shown you a few different methods. Some of them can use the custom field publishing date, like this board view here. I'm able to use publishing date. Some of them, like the calendar view, only fuel off of the due date of the task, which is why I had both of those set to be the publishing date. That's kind of why we have both of them. If you use the due date, you know you're going to be good because everything covers due dates. But if you use a custom field, only some views and automations will work with custom field. So we've gone in here. We've really cleared out all of the lists. We've made them pretty much obsolete. We've recreated the same effects and more going horizontal rather than only vertical. But one of them stands out, and that is hashtags. So how in the world do we put hashtags into a ClickUp layout? Well, hint number one, if it doesn't need a status, it probably shouldn't have a status. And in this case, I'm guessing, and I'm not sure about this, if these hashtags were something that you always used and they didn't expire after a certain period of time, we probably don't want to have them as tasks. If for some reason your hashtags are seasonal and you want to have due dates and start dates, and maybe you want them to be due for a review or something, then it would make sense to have them as tasks. But assuming that that's not the case, that these are just normal hashtags that you just always use in your business, it's time to introduce that other layer of weird that I've mentioned several times, but I haven't really gotten into. We've talked about how Asana is different when it comes to sections and statuses. I've talked about that a lot. But the other third area where Asana and ClickUp just cannot compute is around views. So views in Asana are different ways to view the same information, and that's partially true in ClickUp as well. When I open the views panel to create a new view, you'll see there are actually two sections. The top part, which is task views. And yeah, there's a lot of options here. But the thing to note is task views let you view your task in different ways. For the Asana users, it's basically the same as Asana. You're being able to see a different perspective. But there's also this area called page views. And page views are sneaky because they look like views. They are sorted with views, but they don't really show you anything about the tasks that you're on. They're just put there. They're just nearby your tasks. That's the only thing they have in common. So if I were to go in here and create a chat view, for example, I could just create a chat area, just a forum to be able to talk about things. and have a comment be submitted. Pretty cool. But the one I'm showing you here is not to use a chat widget, but to instead show you a doc widget. And I'll have a whole bunch more content about docs, so check that out if you want to check it out. But if you are going to use hashtags, I would suggest perhaps creating a doc called Marketing SOPs or Social Media SOPs or Brand Guide or hashtags. Again, we don't want a lot of articles here because these can be very long, but we're just going to create a page. I'll call it hashtags. And we are going to copy all of this stuff, which I'm going to show you another way to copy. I selected all of them. And I'm going to go over here, copy task name, copy to clipboard, go back in, hashtags, paste. And I'm going to keep all of my hashtags here. Obviously, there's a lot of pages here. I could have a lot of stuff here, but this is just a neat little way to eliminate the need for that hashtags as a list, because really, we don't want to cross out our hashtags, do we? So I'm going to delete that now. And effectively, we have now eliminated our entire Asana layout. We've turned it into really one list, but a second one if you wanted to just keep things sorted out when they're done. We've also shown an alternative way of having it all in one list and then still using sections, even though you don't really need them, in order to have that visual categorization. But this is the big shift from Asana to ClickUp. It's understanding that sections, statuses, and views are just different sometimes. So that is it for this video. I hope this was a helpful, if not a little bit long, demonstration of the differences between Asana and ClickUp. These are the changes that I find myself making every single time I am looking at someone's Asana translation into ClickUp. It's the same stuff, consolidating, looking at custom fields, looking at statuses, basically using all of the features in ClickUp to not just recreate Asana, but to create an awesome ClickUp work environment. And hopefully this is helpful to you if you are also making this jump. I kind of made this as a client resource because I've had so many questions about it this week, but I figured why not release it publicly, because I'm sure many others are also struggling with this puzzle. Please do let me know in the comments below if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts around this topic. If you've made the switch from Asana to ClickUp, what was the biggest thing that you've had to adjust to? Am I missing something? But these are certainly the three biggest areas I see people struggle when they're jumping from Asana onto the ClickUp bandwagon. And of course, I would be remiss not to mention, if you find yourself in need of help getting your processes, your structure, your workflows into ClickUp, please do keep me in mind. That is what I do. I am a vetted ClickUp consultant, even though I am an ex-Asana user, and I would be happy to talk with you. You can check out more information in the description below. And while you're here, if you're still here, click subscribe, because obviously you like something about this content long enough to watch it for this long. So come on, subscribe and get more content like this. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for bearing with me on kind of a roundabout example where we really got into the weeds here. I will see you next time. Be sure to subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.